All right. Good to see everyone. June 1st, first LinkedIn Live of June. And we're going to talk about this later, but it's actually going to be our last one until the end of the school year. And I'm just going to hand it off to Jill to introduce what we're going to talk about today and little plug for some of the resources we're going to share with everyone.
Thanks, Anwar. Welcome, everyone. Today was very exciting to put the session together for today. And both Anwar and I are deep in this work and are using a lot of these resources with some of our current clients. So excited to bring them out to the larger LinkedIn Live YouTube community. The focus for today is ensuring that you are set up and ready for a strong summer PD. So we will be sharing resources on what we call two different tiers. One being how are you prepping your tier one folks, your coaches, your assistant principals, et cetera, who need to run your professional development. And how are you and what are you including in the actual professional development for your teachers to ensure that they are ready um, physically, mentally, and emotionally to stand in front of students on day one and deliver the type of education we believe every child deserves. So, a lot of great resources. We will tag them at the end and excited to share them with you.
Yeah, so we wanted to start with this quote: "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe," by Abraham Lincoln. The reason why we want to start with this is thinking about Summer PD. It's an amazing and important opportunity to set up leaders, to set up staff for the important work that's going to happen over the next 10 months, right? The way that opportunity to build with staff and leaders at the beginning of the year, it means so much. I remember in my leadership, one year I didn't take it too seriously, not gonna lie. And the results at the school, it showed during the school year. Teachers were not as prepared, messaging wasn't on point. And I didn't, it probably was my worst year as a school principal. But when I did look into the details of planning and getting staff ready, make sure messaging is on point, making sure everybody's working at 100%, the fruits in that labor showed throughout the school year. So the work that you're doing in the summertime, developing staff, developing your leaders, is that first 4 hours of sharpening the axe. And then when students come, making sure chopping down that tree to make sure they have excellent and equitable instruction can really happen. So just wanted to give a quick segue into some of the resources that are going to help us or help that can potentially help you develop your staff to ensure that students and their families get what they need.
Three main objectives for today: defining your tiers, the number of tiers that your team requires, familiarizing yourself with each tier, and then identifying two actions that you or your leaders can take to strengthen the current practice that is happening in your professional development sessions. So we define tier one as the professional development that your coaches, your instructional leaders, your cultural leaders, your operational leaders, um, that anybody who's sort of in a middle level leadership role, that they would need the training that they need to then be able to turn around and execute delivering strong training. So the first tool we have, given for anyone at the middle level who's responsible for designing and facilitating PD, the first tool that we have is a consistency tool, which once you've determined your summer PD and you've color coded it and you've assigned each PD session to a coach, this tool right here, which will be linked in PDF format, is what we call the Plan for a Strong Professional Development. You'll see it's a pretty basic plan. I like to keep all of my prep work to one page where possible. So this first part of the chart defines what each section of the plan would include. And then the bottom section would be the part that you would give to your coaches. And they can complete this in one of two ways, depending on how they work. The first way they can complete it is by doing this form first and jotting down what the objective is for the session, what their inspire is going to be, what their empower is going to be, the practice they intend, and the real time feedback that they are planning to give in practice. Or some folks work reverse way, which is they're really good at just putting their slide deck together first and then aligning their worksheet. So if you've got an adult learner who works that way, they would take their slide deck and then just cross reference it with this bottom part, the key components, to make sure that all parts of their professional development, every session that they lead, is accounted for. As a leader of coaches, I would say you would want to really spend time and hone in on and ensure your instructional leaders and your culture leaders focus in on the inspire part of this document, and that they have a chance to practice their inspire with their peers, their coaches, their coaching peers, their middle level peers, and the real time feedback they're going to give during practice. So most of my strongest leaders can at least build in their practice and they know what they want the teachers, et cetera, to do. But they're not always crystal clear on the live feedback or the real-time feedback that they're going to give. And so taking time to script this out and giving them at least 3 to 4 minutes to talk to their peers to make sure that their eyes are on the pushes that we know adults have in terms of presence and execution in our practice. So, multiple ways to use this form as a head of school or as a principal, giving it to your coaches, your middle level leaders to plan, having your middle level leaders back map or check what they've already planned versus this document. Using this document, specifically the inspire and the real time feedback, to give your middle level leaders time together to grow those skills. And the last way to use this form is when you actually practice with your middle level leaders, you can use that bottom blank section again for each leader to give other leaders feedback, such as the objective needs work, objective is clear, your inspire would be stronger if you had more pauses. So multiple ways to use this first tool to build consistency and cohesion in all of your sessions. Anything else you would say on the prep work and the growth for your middle level leaders, Anwar?
No, I like this tool. I think it's going to segue into a couple other things that we spoke about around how to ensure that the PD that leaders provide is as impactful as possible. And this is a great tool to help leaders with that.
Thanks. The next part that's important for to set up your middle level leaders to be strong in content knowledge before they need to turn around and execute or train folks is to determine or define what lesson preparation is for a teacher. So what does it mean for a teacher to be well prepared for a class? And underneath that, you need to determine and be proficient within the actual curriculum that the teachers are using, and two, that you as the coach are going to use. And once you've determined what preparation is needed, what curriculum you're going to use, then you need a way for the coach to give feedback to the teacher on what the teacher is planning. And so working across schools, there's 3 main ways that my schools that have their teachers prepare for class. The first is a lesson plan. The second is what we call intellectual prep protocols. And the third that some schools do is just have their teachers to do the exemplars. This tool is not meant to be filled out completely. This tool is meant for you to select as a school once you know whether you're going to have your teachers do lesson plans, intellectual prep, or exemplar review. You would delete the other two parts of this tool, check the components listed on the left side of each of the tables um, to make sure that they align with the type of prep that is required for your chosen curriculum. And then this document allows a coach to review, say, a lesson plan, and then give feedback to the teacher on how well they've planned. This tool is pretty in depth, and so if your curiosity is all piqued by it, definitely reach out. Would love to do a 10 to 15-minute call with you on how schools that I'm working with find this tool to be impactful. Anything else here on this tool, Anwar?
Yeah, just want to add that the tool identifies the major components that's necessary for teacher to be well prepared. And it also puts a lot of the onus on the leader to be well versed to do their work to understand the curriculum, which in turn will support what the teacher is doing. So I think it's a great tool for teachers for leaders that have a lot of experience with the curriculum, or leaders who are just starting off with the new curriculum if folks are in the middle of an adoption process.
Yep. Do you want to do the other resource you had here, or just based on time, maybe link it in the chat and people can reach out? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, so I just added the instructional practice guide. It's a pretty great resource. A lot of folks might have seen it from Achieve the Core, but as a leader, it's one thing that you can use to norm going into classroom and doing observations and making sure you're focused on the most important things. This will be in the resource that we share at the end. And as Jill mentioned, if you need any support looking at or how it could be used with your site, feel free to connect with me or Jill. And right now, Jill, I'm going to move towards the mindset document. If you wanted to take a look at that with folks.
Yep. And then the other two, just to close out this section on the tiers of professional development that are needed for your coaches, middle level leaders. We have the piece around defining good lesson execution, and there's a tool called an observation tool that if you don't have one, I think it's a pretty thorough tool. Again, I won't go too deep into it right now, but the message that I want to get across to you is that this is a tool that I use when I go into most classrooms. I led before TLAC, I led before leverage leadership, I led before all of those texts that really give us some great common language. And when I led, I was always concerned with how many kids were on task, how many kids were actually on track to meet the objective, and who was doing the majority of the work in the class. And so you will see this is built out to align to language that most folks we work with are familiar with around ratio and ways to build ratio in the class. And then also ways to make sure that your management and rigor are up to par within the first 60 days of class. And also relies pretty heavily on the beginning parts of aggressive monitoring. And all three of those key areas you need to allot time to train your teachers in this summer, and then show them actually how you're going to observe them and hold them accountable to executing. The last piece I want to go over is a live coaching tool, two different tools that again put together some resources that most of us are familiar with, and maybe not. And so if not, the actual resources are linked within the document. First and foremost, I've been running into post-COVID more than ever this thought that I don't want to step on the teacher's toes. I don't want to take away the teacher's authority. I don't want the kids to know that that I'm supporting the teacher. And I I don't believe that that's a role of a leader to take anyone's authority. I don't believe that it's the role of the leader to, um, make any to make the teacher uncomfortable in any way. But I will. This is a hill I will die on. If I am leading a school or in a leadership role in a school, and families are sending their children to me to learn, and I can increase the rigor or engagement or safety in a space, it is like my moral and ethical drive to do so and to walk out of a room that is, when I say unsafe, I just mean it's unsafe psychologically, potentially for some kids to give answers. Um, and so to me, that's like an ethical dilemma. If I leave a room and I know it's not safe, or I know there were ways I could increase the rigor or get more kids feeling successful. So, this tool is what we call our live coaching document. We call it Distress, Eustress. And it just gives very clear ways to approach live coaching. If you have worked with me before on live coaching, would love for you to drop something in the chat around how this document supported you, because it is by far, when I work in person, the document where most folks finally make the breakthrough by using the content in here and then actually pushing themselves to practice the live coaching skills, which is listed on the first part, where they really start to make the breakthroughs. And this is, for me, a great tool to use with your coaches before teachers come on board, because ideally you're going to be wanting them to use some of these skills as they get into practice. Um, the last tool that I have that we won't share, but it'll be linked in the resources, connects directly with this tool, which is a way, it's called a tracker for live coaching. And so if you're interested in increasing the live coaching that's happening in your schools, definitely reach out and we will talk about how these two tools can help you build live coaching to be an enjoyable experience and hold team members accountable for effective live coaching in your school. With that, Anwar, I'll turn it over to you if anything else to add here, or heading on to the second tier.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that you just spoke about, it's all intertwined with with what I'm going to address. And tier two is really around what are leaders doing to successfully engage teachers, team members in the summer PD experience. And I think that the once at times I've seen leaders default to PD or teaching set or teaching teachers in a way that they wouldn't want students to be taught. So the one thing that I like to tell leaders, and when you're providing a PD, like what engages students is also going to engage in adults. If you think you can sit in front of teachers and talk to them for 30, 45 minutes and give them a list of things, it's not, it can work, but it's not going to be as effective. And that's not going to work for our students as well. So three areas that I think is critical to embedding into professional development is one, team building opportunities, really specific engagement, and also setting expectations for what happens within the training session. So the first document that I'm going to share is actually a book. And I would be the first to tell you that when I started off as a leader, I was not, as they say, I was not able to do the below the green line things. I had to really work on myself to ensure that I was being intentional around how to build community with my staff members. And this book right here really, really helped out. So sometimes you might have a ton of icebreakers at the beginning of the school year and you like, what am I like recycling them? But this book is just a great resource that you has multiple icebreakers for teachers, for that you can do for students, etc. So check it out. It'll be in a resource that we share, but it's beyond moving beyond iceberg. Just a great tool to build some camaraderie around the team. So the next tool that I want to share, and give me a second, working all of these. I know everyone has probably been through the the slide deck stuff. So icebreakers. Also, another thing around team building, grade content, community building. So you maybe if you're having a session, you want to have folks sit with their grade team members to build some community, have folks sit with their content team members to build some community. But that's a way you can do it within the session. And then the one thing that I like is name cards and strategic seating. So it's if you have everyone with a name card at the beginning, you would want to collect them at the end of the day. But throughout the day, you can partner folks up strategically when they're in PD sessions. So, for example, if you have an experienced teacher and you know they're going to be working closely with a less experienced teacher, you can set up the seating arrangement so they sit with each other. Also, if you see that one group of teachers might not be as on task as you want them to be a previous day, the next day with the card, you can say, yeah, we're moving the chairs around. And the one thing that I would say has been helpful for me is just transparency about it. If folks are chatting and not really engaged, I'm going to talk to them, say, hey, I didn't see you fully engaged today. Is there something that was going on? What could do better? Let you know I'm a change the seating arrangement so you can engage because that might support you being more engaged. And I'm really big on being upfront with people around that type of stuff. So it's not like something on the side like, yeah, they changed our seats for some reason, right? So yeah, so that's around team building, getting people to talk to each other and communicate and build that cohesion that's necessary on leadership teams. The second piece is engagement, and I'm not going to share these resources. I'm not going to show them right here, but I'm sure a lot of you have seen them. Sometimes we overestimate leaders' ability to create powerful PDs for teachers, right? It's not unlike our lesson plans. We could get a structured curriculum that tells us what's within each lesson. However, when you're doing a PD, there is no PD book. You got to teach like a champion, so but there is no PD book that's here. This is the PD you're going to give to your staff, right? But these resources that support engagement can help an instructional leader specifically put in different activities to engage y'all staff. So if you're using expeditionary learning, they have their total participation techniques. They're great for students. They're also great for adults. So if a leader is not really having teachers engage in a session, maybe they can use some total participation techniques to help folks get engaged. Second, protocols for responding and discussing. These are culturally responsive protocols by Cherokee Holly. Has a lot of protocols in there, but it's another way to get folks to communicate with each other. We're going to share that resource as well. And lastly, some cooperative learning strategies. Just have some Kagan cards that you can use that a leader can potentially input into their PD session to ensure that folks are really engaged in the content. Because if they're engaged, it's going to be more memorable. And again, as I mentioned before, you don't want to just be at the front talking at folks because they're adults and they're going to feel it more than students. And we know we don't want to do that to students either. The last part I'm just going to go into very quickly is expectations. So just be very clear with your expectations for teachers and team members. And you got to follow them as well. I know as leaders, we have a lot of stuff to do, but if you got to take a call or work on your computer, hey, go to your office or say you have to step out because just having that high expectation for what technology you're using is important. So if you want laptops down, just communicate laptops down and have folks just hold folks accountable to it. Of course, do it in a way that is respectful and honors folks in who they are. But whatever the expectations for technology, make sure that it's there. And then print or not? Are you going to print stuff up or not? There's a great way that you can force copy documents in on Google if you don't want to print something up. So say if it's like a document that you want everyone to use as potentially a note catcher, create a Google Force copy that'll force folks to copy if you have a Google email, and folks can work on it on there as opposed to having difficulty or messing up the document or having it just download themselves. And then I would always recommend having some culminating work, like what are teachers going to have to produce or create at the end of this session if necessary, just to hold folks accountable and make sure that you can, again, as you do with students, see if what you were attempting to deliver in this professional development came to fruition after your time with teachers. So 3 ways: team building, within PD session, engaging staff, and just being very clear on your expectations for what folks need to do. These are three strategies that's really helped a lot of leaders, and specifically has helped me provide great summer PD. And with that, Jill, anything to add, or you want to go to our next tier?
No, I think I just appreciate all of the resources shared here. People can use all or some, and I think definitely up the quality of any PD that I've seen recently. The last piece we have are just some quick tips for a strong practice. Multiple people know that they need to embed practice within their summer PD sessions. And so if you don't yet know that, you need to start doing it, period. And that goes back to the last piece that Anwar just said, the culminating activity. What should the teacher be walking out of this session with? And have they practiced it? Have we gotten them to a level of independence? Without practice, the best thing we know is if somebody has a mental layer of understanding here, if they're yesing us or in agreement that they want to have strong presence. But unless we have them practice, we actually don't see them in action. So we don't know if they can go from what they mentally understand and want to do to actually execute at a high level. So when you script in your practice, as you will, and there you can use the tool for planning to script in the exact practice. The next piece underneath that in the tool is the types of pushes or things that you think you're going to need to work on. As you are attempting to get a teacher's presence ready for the classroom and to stand up in front of students and execute a lesson, you as the coach need to push their presence. And some of the key indicators or terms that you will use to push a person's presence is going to be the tone of the words coming out of their mouth, the volume, the pace at which the words are coming out, the pace at which their body is moving. Are they standing still, or do they have energy coming out of their hands that's distracting? You will push cadence. You will push whether or not they land on a high note. Make it sound like maybe you can sit and star if you want, or sit and star, ending on an even tier. So the pushes that you're giving are very, very delicate, because you are pushing a human's way of being in the world. And so it's important as the coach to realize that the push that you're giving a person to increase their presence is going to hit some fundamental level of the way they have formed themselves in the room, in the world. And therefore, to increase that presence, you need to handle those pushes with delicacy and integrity. And one of the tricks that I like to use, or one of the tools that I like to use when I'm facilitating a group, is after a person has gone, I like to just get nonverbal feedback from the whole room. So if we're working on strong voice and what to do directions, I'll say to the room, if you would have followed this teacher's strong what to do directions based on the strong voice that they use, put a thumb up. If you're not sure you would have done that, put a thumb to the side. And if the teacher's strong voice needs work and you wouldn't have followed the what to do directions, put a thumb down. So at the end of it, the teacher can look at or the coach or the teacher can look at the room and see if the room is all thumbs up, thumbs to the side, and thumbs down, so that the push becomes less from me and more from whether or not the group would actually follow the instructions. So that is a tool around a presence push that I often use in large group training to support an adult, and to have the push be less, hey, it's not about what Jill likes or what Jill thinks is a strong presence. It's about, you've got a group of 30 or 50 other folks who wouldn't follow your instructions, which means your kids won't either. So that's my quick hit around presence. Anwar, anything under presence before I jump to live coaching?
Oh,
Did
I
you thumbs
put a
up me?
thumbs
I
up
saw
on
you.
it.
I was like, did you thumbs up me? It's small on my screen. Um, and then I see it's 30. So hopefully we can go till at least 33, potentially 35. The last piece, this again ties back to the tool on PD. Live coaching should be happening in your summer PD. Um, and make sure as the coach that you're giving the feedback on content when they're practicing, on the presence, as I covered in the first part, and make sure that you're precise. The last piece that I forgot to include in here is lead with positivity. So when I'm in a room, I consider myself to be present with my sensorium. So that's not my body, it's my sensorium. It's everything I'm picking up. And so if you've ever been in the room with me when I'm live coaching, I am constantly thumbing up. I am nodding yes. Even if you don't hear me or see me, I am, if you are giving strong what to do directions, I'm doing this. All of a sudden you get confused and you go 7 words on your what to do. I'm like, this. So when I come in to verbally coach you, you know that I'm also seeing you do the good things by the way my nonverbals are. So lead with positivity. It's easiest, most easily done through your nonverbals, and make sure that you are emanating positivity on every small skill that you are teaching through your nonverbals before you go in to give that much needed feedback, to grow someone's presence or content knowledge, on the skills that they'll need to execute and manage a class well. Anything else on the live coaching before I turn it over to you for set the tone?
No, I think it all connects with the importance of how this can set the tone, right? As a leader or a principal going in, doing the presence pushes around tone, nonverbal feedback, doing the live coaching as a model, is setting the tone for the staff, for the leaders that are going to do that with teachers in the school year. It also sets the tone for the teachers that are in the room that, wow, the person who supervises me is getting live coaching. They're getting presence pushes. So when it happens to me, it's not, it might make me uncomfortable, but I know that this is just the culture within this building. So I think it sets the tone, in a couple, 3 areas, sets a tone for high expectations, for what happens within the school year. And also leaders know that, hey, every single second is important. Sets the tone around being able to follow up with folks and give them feedback throughout the process, so they know that that's something that's going to happen throughout the year. And as a leader, it also is important to provide that you're providing that support that folks need. And it again, it's not easy. It takes time on a leader's end to do all of these pieces. But as we mentioned before, the fruits that show up during the school year when students are learning so much, having success, feeling successful, a building is a positive place, people are being pushed, retention numbers are up, all of that stuff can sometimes can be traced to what's happening in the summer, and how folks are following up on it. So just think that all of the practice work sets the tone for the staff and also just contributes to a great community for all students.
And we'll close out with quote from Eckhart Tolle: "Quality requires your presence," and that goes from the top down or from the bottom up. Building the team that you want, supporting them to be the type of adult that is needed in front of children, requires you to be fully present and engaged, specifically at the planning stages of your PD and during the practice that's happening in your PDs. Um, and that's my, my end game on that is like being present is the greatest gift we can give to others. I get humbled time and time again as I work with several leaders through their difficult moments and watching them reach new levels in their presence to hold their leadership at a higher level is one of the things. There's a song actually called "Blessed to Be a Witness" that that lives deep within me. It's why I do this work. So wishing you all that same deep feeling of, I don't know, it's the word ecstasy almost, when you see an adult reach a level in their leadership to best support the mission in your school. Um, May you feel it all the way down to the core of your being.
Yeah, I feel it's difficult to define that with a word, but you definitely feel it on the inside. Like, wow, they actually, it's happening, even when you think about yourself and your impact. So definitely feel there. So just going to go over a couple of next steps. So we have the tools. We'll put the link in the LinkedIn Live information. So you'll have that linked. It's a tiny URL. You can click it and get all of the tools. They'll be hyperlinked within a PDF document. You can comment on the tool your team, comment the tool that your team needs the most in LinkedIn Live. Again, we mentioned before around our complimentary 15-minute call. So if you want to check in with me or Jill, feel free to email us at info@echelonleadership.org. We can talk through some of the tools that we shared. And just a quick announcement, just like the school year goes on a hiatus, we're going on a hiatus, and we'll be back in September with some more resources for folks. We have a very packed
I was
summer
gonna say,
retreats. We have about 6 right now, which is our goal was 5, so we're really excited to work with. We're working with I think around 8 schools this summer to ensure that they're on that track for success, and really excited about that. So you'll probably see some stuff on LinkedIn about that. Anything else that you'd like to add, Jill?
no, I just was going to qualify that the hiatus will be from the LinkedIn Live, but we will be eyeball deep and super excited to be bringing these retreats to numerous schools throughout the country. We do potentially have space for one more. So if it's something you're realizing your team needs, reach out. Very limited time, but we are also considering doing, some 2-day sessions potentially in October or December, depending, well, more so January. So if you're not able to get a session with us this summer and want to think ahead, definitely reach out. Would love to work with your team.
All right,
That's
so
about it.
hear more from us. You'll probably see some info on our school study coming up in September. We're getting that in, and so speak to everyone soon.
All right. Bye-bye.